Hey everybody, welcome to the Great Lakes Divide live stream on YouTube, presented to you by FederalWilliams.com. Visit FederalWilliams.com for all of your realty needs. You can check out the website, put in zip code, search by area. They specialize in the greater Lansing area with a focus on the eastern suburbs, East Lansing, Okemos, Hazlet. I'm Adam Biggers. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. The video might look a little weird. I busted the clip on my tripod. My new phone with the case is a little bit bigger than the old one, and I stretched this thing to the limit, so it's kind of like a tilted view. So I apologize for that. If you guys watch this live stream enough and follow it, you know that we're not about aesthetics around here. We're about substance. So I'll try to get it so that way I don't look like I'm just a talking head. There we go. That's better. Jay May says, right on, just getting out of work. Hey, guys, real quick, I want to talk about Ronnie Bell. I asked Jim Harbaugh about Ronnie on the Big Ten Coaches Conference call. I want to talk about availability, and then I'll field your questions. So give me a second. I'm going to tweet out this live link right now. And I want to remind everybody tomorrow, the regular Friday live stream, it'll start between 11 and noon Eastern time. I'm going to have Lamarion James. He's a Michigan target, 2020, out of Indian River, Chesapeake, Virginia. If you get a chance, watch this kid's highlights. He's a mix, maybe a little bit of a mix of a Ronnie Bell, but he's definitely got some Ambry Thomas in him as far as that just overall playmaker ability. I want to talk about Ambry as well and talk about some of these interviews we had Tuesday night, but we'll have Lamarion tomorrow. He'll be in the live chat, so you guys will be free to ask him questions. He'll stick around for as long as he can. Ask him some questions, that sort of thing. Have fun, and hopefully it's a productive chat. So other than that, we're almost set to go. I'm going to retweet this, and I'm going to post it on the page. And give us a follow at GL Divide on Facebook and Twitter. Everything goes on the Facebook page and then kind of makes its way out to Twitter. So but definitely follow our Facebook page. And we'll be good to go in about 30 seconds, guys. So yeah, I want to, I know I always say we're going to try to keep it short and everything, but we'll go for as long as we need. But I do want to talk about Ronnie Bell. We could talk about Lamarion James a little bit. He plays basketball too, so maybe there's kind of the Ronnie Bell comparison, because Ronnie Bell played basketball. But I have some questions off Twitter. We're going to dive in. I'm going to get into the chat right now. Ethan Lahinnis says, what's good, Adam? Hey, Ethan. J Mays 2, right on, man. Just getting off work. Matt Crittenden says, right on time. David MCC, why no helmet stickers after Notre Dame game? And Matt Crittenden says, we hope we don't scare him away. Yeah, guys, with a target, he's a Michigan target. He was offered in May. I spoke with him on Twitter yesterday. Michigan's very high interest. So be on your best behavior. He's a high school kid. Don't say anything stupid. You know, I'm going to let him know he doesn't have to answer all questions. But you guys are pretty good. But you know how some people get with this, especially with recruits. Keep in mind, he's a sophomore. He's a 2020 kid. So, you know, don't ask him anything crazy or say anything. Robert Protzman says Hill's visiting this weekend. And Robert, yeah, you guys know I don't follow recruiting like super close. I mean, I follow enough of it, but there are definitely, you know, guys out there like Steven Lorenz and, you know, people like that, 247 Sports, Sam Webb, Michigan Insider. They follow recruiting a little bit more. But I had talked to Dax Hill a lot about Michigan. He's always liked Michigan, always. And he's a big-time Oklahoma kid, Oklahoma State, OU after him. But Michigan's, you know, he's always had high interest in Michigan. So if you got Matt Crittenden said, oh, God, he's underage. He's a high school kid. You guys, keep the questions, you know. Feel free to ask him anything, you know, about like the coaching staff, who he's talked to. I mean, that's kind of stuff that I ask him about, but, you know, I don't think I really have to say anything else. But do you guys want to talk about Ronnie Bell? Let's talk about Ronnie Bell. I just wrote about Ronnie, and he's on Harbaugh's radar. Just posted this on GreatLakesDivide.com, so check it out. I'm going to put the link right here in it. And also, I had a lot. I love writing, and I have so much fun writing features. I cannot remember a feature. There's been a couple that I had a lot of fun with, and we're proud to do, and felt like, hey, this is really cool. It's just one of those stories that you feel like you did a good job after. There's no Furbush story that I'm putting in here. It's definitely it. Noah and I discussed it a little bit. I actually, when I was growing up, other than a sports writer, I also wanted to be a pilot and an astronaut. And then I saw the Challenger blow up, and that kind of like said, no, that wasn't going to happen. But Noah Furbush, very much dedicated to football. Jim Harbaugh feels he could play in the NFL. Noah wants to fly fighter jets. And we were talking, I was really into like SR-71s and Blackbirds when I was a kid. My parents were in the Air Force. I was born on an Air Force base. So I've always had like a really high interest in the planes, but Noah wants to join the military. He wants to fly fighter jets, and he told me some really cool stories about what led him to flying, and kind of just some deep life stuff. When you're up there, and he said you get these moments every now and then that really make you appreciate, the moment that you're in. So give that a read, guys. I put the link. So Moonwalker says Evans is better than Higdon. I mean, why do you say that, Moonwalker? Let's talk about Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell. And this question came from the indefatigable. I don't even know that word. Is that a word? Indefatigable? Am I just not smart, JD? I do not know. Is this a real word or not? Anyway, so I read your article on Ronnie Bell. I'd like to hear you talk about him. How good do you think he is? How fast is he? What is the 40-yard time on a receiver court? Collins, DPJ. I think DPJ is somewhere in the 4 or 5 range. I don't know on Nico. And with Ronnie Bell, he didn't even go to camps and run 40s. He's a guy like no major D1 football program was even looking at this kid. He was a basketball star, and obviously he was the best player in Kansas and Missouri. In that Kansas City metro area, he was the Kansas City Player of the Year. No D1 interest. He gets his release from Missouri State, and like 3 days later, Michigan's coming after him, and then 2 days later, he's committed. How good do I think? I think Michigan got an absolute steal in Ronnie Bell, an absolute steal. And I'll tell you this, he's only lined up at wide receiver against Notre Dame. He played special teams against Western Michigan, like I mentioned in the article. But what I really like to do is watch these guys warm up, and I've been telling you guys for 2 years, Dylan McCaffrey really likes the ball. I really like the way he throws the ball. I mean, just throws a nice ball. And it's simple observational stuff like that, but at the same time, I feel like you can really get a good glimpse. And Ronnie Bell, watching Ronnie just warm up, he looks like he's been doing that. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He's out there comfortable with that. I expect that Ronnie Bell, if it's not this year, because they do have depth at wide receiver, if it's not this year, it's got to be next year. Ronnie Bell, I think, is too good of a player for Michigan. Similar athleticism, I think, to Ambry Thomas, different type of player. Obviously, he's not that, three-way player, offense, defense, special teams. But, I mean, Ronnie can do something on special teams this year, will be the stepping stone. And then we look toward next year, watch him incorporate more into the offense. I think Ronnie Bell is an absolute steal. A lot of people will talk about, Michigan State, for instance, has gotten, Le'Veon Bell, Kirk Cousins, a bunch of like underrated Mark Dell, BJ Cunningham. All those guys weren't big time recruits, but they became stars at Michigan State. I think this is that type of player for Michigan. I know Michigan fans were freaking out. He's a 3-star recruit, and I mean, this kid can play football, and Jim Harbaugh, he's definitely on Jim Harbaugh's radar. So to answer your question, the indefatigable, someone help me out with this. Indefatigable. Is that even a word? I'm a writer. I should know. I don't know. Anyway, I do think Ronnie Bell is very good. And like I said, I think we're going to see more Ronnie sooner than later. If everything goes as kind of, Jim Harbaugh didn't, tilt his hand and say, hey, we're going to, we're working him into X, Y, and Z, this many plays, and we wanted to do this. But just the tone of his voice, the way that he said it, they definitely see Ronnie. They're playing him for a reason. And Harbaugh said that he's got skills that can really help them. So take that for what you will. I take it as Ronnie Bell is a guy to watch, certainly. Moonwalker, back to your Evans better than Higdon comment. Evans needs more touches. Higdon is good, but Evans always does more with less. I mean, I don't know. I think Karan Higdon does a pretty good job of getting yards after contact, right? I mean, he's not always getting the perfect. Neither one of them are getting perfect blocks. The offensive line blocked well against Western Michigan, got some push. Got a video of Juwan Bushell-Beatty talking about that on my YouTube channel, so you guys check that out and please subscribe. We're over 1,200 subscribers now, almost 400 more than what we started with prior to camp. So thanks again to everybody who's been watching, and thanks again to all the new people watching. Greg Ryan says, Ronnie Bell is on my player to watch list. I think he's going to be dangerous. Greg, you and I think alike, sir. And let's see. Come on, focus in. There we go. We think alike. I think Ronnie Bell is a guy to watch, certainly. And I'm excited to see what Ambry Thomas is going to do. And Ambry Thomas, I'm going to sidetrack here, ADHD moment. Ambry Thomas reminds me of Chris Tucker, and I'm not even kidding. Go watch Chris Tucker's facial expressions in Money Talks. If you guys remember that movie with Charlie Sheen, it's one of my favorite movies. Watch his facial expressions, and then go watch this video with Ambry Thomas telling Angelique, I was right next to him, and he kept looking at my camera for some reason. I was right next to Angelique, and she asked, is it the same this week? They're only working in a little bit. And he's like, yeah, 1 or 2 plays per day, and that's it. And she said something like, really? And Ambry looks, and he kind of just smiles. It's at like, I forgot the mark in the video, 7:30 maybe. But I commented with the time stamp in there. It's hilarious. And you could see his facial expressions. And I asked him too, okay, right after the Notre Dame game, I sitting, just a few feet away from him. And I asked him, Ambry, are there plans to work you into the offense? Have there been talks? He said, no, none at all. And just kind of gave me a look. So Ambry Thomas, very talented athlete. I think he's going to do a lot of things for Michigan, whether it's gadget plays on offense. I don't know if we'll see him really as a running back, probably like a slot guy and, some end around type of stuff. And then as a return man, and then, he's a really good cornerback too. And that's kind of his main position, he said. Ambry Thomas, really talented, can do all those things, cannot keep a secret. So the cat's out of the bag. Watch out for a little bit more of Ambry. And I think against SMU, this is the type of game where you might see some creative use of Ambry Thomas. You might see Ronnie Bell get a little bit more action. So back to the chat. Indefatigable means tireless, as in someone can't get fatigued. Jimmy G, thanks. And I totally butchered. Indefatigable. Am I saying that right? I've never heard that word. I'm sorry. Greg Ryan says, I like the fact that when players are asked about Ronnie Bell, they always look up into the sky and say he could jump out of the gym. Yeah, I mean, the kid committed to Missouri State. He was going to play basketball, had 0 D1 interest at all. Nobody. All it takes is that one offer, or that, that one person to reach out. And it looks like Michigan got a good one in Ronnie Bell. So stay tuned with Ronnie. Greg Ryan says, Jimmy G, is that your Twitter handle? I'm sorry for butchering that. Greg Ryan adds, think about it. He's a 3-star, never went to any camps. Exactly. You go to those camps, you get your name out there a little bit. I'm not saying people buy rankings, but I've talked to enough recruits. You guys, I remember talking to Adam Berghorst. He's committed to Michigan State to play football and basketball. Not a big camp scene guy. I remember Hayden Rucci. He was a big Michigan State tight end target. He's committed to Wisconsin, 2019 kid, one of the best tight ends in his class. He wasn't like a big camp guy either. So, the camps do help with exposure, and maybe, the more name that you have and, you're getting seen, and hey, this school talked to you, this school talked to you, you go from a 3 to a 4, and then, some of these guys jump from a 4 to a 5. Really, what's the difference? Ronnie Bell, by all measures, is a Division I college football player, and those star rankings don't mean anything once you get there. So that's the way I look at it. And I think that, again, not to repeat myself, but Ronnie Bell, Michigan got a steal in him. I like his athleticism. Just watch him warm up. He looks natural, comfortable. And again, everybody's just talking about the way he can jump. Jim Harbaugh was praising the way that he can track the ball. And he just has all those qualities that you want in an athlete. So they sound simple enough, but you'd be surprised. There's some guys who get by because maybe they're just really fast, or, there's some receivers who don't run the best routes, but they benefit from having a quarterback who can adjust. It sounds like Ronnie Bell is one of those guys who knows what he's doing. And again, Just a true freshman. He's gotten into 2 games. We'll see what he can do, but keep an eye out for him. CS says Michigan's backup offensive tackles are better than starters. Just an observation. Well, CS, I don't think that's necessarily true. Mayfield and Hudson. Mayfield at left tackle, true freshman. James Hudson, redshirt freshman, converted defensive lineman rather. They were in there. They were in the mix, but they're not better because they didn't win the starting job. So, but what's going to happen is it's just going to be kind of a wait and see approach, I think, with Juwan Bushell-Beatty at right tackle, John Runyon Jr. at left tackle. And if those guys don't perform and Mayfield and Hudson continue to have really good practices and start getting more reps with the ones, then eventually we might see a replacement. But right now, Runyon and Bushell-Beatty are the best tackles they have. That's why they're on the field. I mean, that starting 5 for the offensive line is the starting 5 for a reason. Is that to say that they're not going to make changes? No. But they have a starting 5, and the 5 guys that they believe are going to, and ideally for them, all at the same time, progress. But they have 5 guys out there that they believe are the best they have right now and can be the best. So we'll see what with Mayfield and Hudson. It's just a practice thing. It's how well do they do in practice? And then once they do, I mean, Jalen, both of them saw the field against Western Michigan. Jalen Mayfield got in there for a little bit. If he continues to do that, he does that against SMU, and maybe John Runyon Jr. is making some mistakes, then we do. But, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a fast switch. We're not going to see right now, even if Jalen Mayfield has a really good practice this week, I don't think that they're going to say, okay, well, Mayfield's the starter over Runyon Jr. I just don't think that's going to happen. Whitney Jackson says, I think Shea needs to throw the ball more against SMU. Against good teams, we can't run for 300 yards. So O-line and Shea need to get more comfortable. I agree with that, Whitney. You got to air it out. You're not going to be able to go Chris and Karan and sprinkle in some True Wilson at the end against Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan State, Nebraska. Nebraska's their home opener, a Big Ten home opener. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree. You're not going to throw the ball. I mean, he only threw it, what was he, 12 of 17? So only 17 passing attempts. And how many times did they throw it against Notre Dame? He was 20 of 30, so they threw the ball 30 times. But so far, so Shea, let's do some math. 20 completions plus 12, that's 32. Attempts, 30 plus 17. So he is 32 of 47 on the year. I mean, that's, what, 75%? 68%. Okay, I was off a little bit. That's still pretty good. So, but yeah, I agree with you, Whitney. You got to throw the ball a little bit more. And again, going back to what I said, maybe this is a game where, I mean, we've already seen him go on to Nico Collins. We've seen DPJ get some touches. Oliver Martin, Grant Perry. Is this a game where maybe they go a little bit deeper in the well and say, hey, let's throw the ball to Ronnie? Ronnie doesn't have a target yet. He's lined up as wide receiver. He hasn't been targeted yet. Robert Protzman says returning kickoffs and punt are completely different. Just because you're good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. Is that a comment? Did I miss something? Hold on. Jimmy G says thoughts on Ambry Thomas returning punts. It seems like DPJ doesn't have the lateral quickness or decision making necessary for the job. And then Robert, that was your follow up to that. I mean, if you could keep it to one guy, and again, sorry guys, this is going out of focus. If you could keep it to one guy, do that. But I mean, I don't see a problem. Donovan was close last year twice, wasn't he? He broke what? There was didn't he have a 60-yard return? I'd have to look up the stats. He had a really long return, maybe 40. It's like a 40 to 60 yarder last year. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones will be a decent punt returner for them. Moonwalker says, I watched TCU tear them apart with the pass. J Mays 2 says, like how Warner was telling us how the coaches communicate. Sounds like offense coordinator by committee is a good idea. Yeah, and I mean, we've used that exact phrase, I think, during this discussion, and that's kind of what I've always thought. There's not an offensive coordinator. There is an offensive coordinator by committee. Absolutely. Jim Harbaugh has the final say on the offensive play calling. But, if you ask me my personal feelings, I think it's Pep is the de facto. But, again, there's input from Ed Warner. There's input from Sherrone Moore, tight ends coach. There's input from Jay Harbaugh, the running backs coach. There's input from Jim McElwain, the wide receivers coach. But I think McElwain, Harbaugh, and Pep Hamilton are probably like the three. And really Ed Warner too, because he was an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. So, I mean, you got 4 guys who are main candidates. I'm not really sure how much, input, other than just position specific, but how much input as a whole that guys are gonna, Sherrone Moore is gonna have a ton of input in it, or, Jay Harbaugh is gonna have, position specific. But when it comes to broader stuff, yes, I definitely feel like it's probably Warner, McElwain, Pep, and Jim Harbaugh all just kind of meeting together. Jake McCurry, next Hunter Renfrow. I like Jake. He seemed like a nice dude. Again, watch that video. He was talking about his first touchdown and everything. How people were hitting him up after like 12 years. I think he said he was from Ohio, but he originally lived in Pittsburgh. So he had friends from Pittsburgh, like kids he used to sit next to in 2nd grade or something like that. He said they were hitting him up on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. And I'm like, you got to score. I guess you got to score a touchdown to get your friends to recognize you. So yeah, good for him. Definitely a feel-good story. The True Wilson story, walk-on feel-good story about that. Definitely his parents named him after TRU, the No Limit rap group, Master P, mid to late 90s. If you guys are my age, you know about that. Maybe at the end we can get into some more discussion about rap. I watched Eminem's interview with Sway in response to MGK, but we'll keep it about sports. Cameron Clark says, "What's up, Adam?" Hey, Cam, what's up, man? Matthew Maddox says we are excited about Shay's brother. If I missed your comment, guys, it's not on purpose. Sean DeBoer, is there still going to be a stream tomorrow? Yes, Sean. It'll be our regular Friday, score predictions, get a little bit into SMU. We haven't heard nobody's asked any Monday, nobody asked an SMU specific question. I did not hear one thing about Jim. What do you see out of SMU's offense? What do you see out of SMU's defense? Nothing. Not one thing. It's all just kind of, piggybacking on the good things from Wednesday. Because contrary to popular belief, Michigan media isn't out there to just slam Michigan all the time. I feel like feel like Michigan media gets that rap, like they're too harsh. If anything, Michigan media, I think, is logical. The fans are a bit harsh. But, yeah, it's, there were things that you don't have to harp on. I mean, yeah, offensive line's still an issue, but were there some signs of growth against Western? Yeah. Was it Western? Yeah. Shea Patterson going on, what was it? Jamie and Stoney. Was it this morning? I believe it was this morning. Talked about how fans were overreacting. They lost by a touchdown at Notre Dame. It was their first game together. I mean, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, tomorrow's live stream between 11 and noon, Sean, and we'll have Lamarion Jackson. He's a 2020 Michigan target out of Indian River, Chesapeake, Virginia. Watch his highlights. Look him up. Little mix of Ambry, little mix of Ronnie Bell. He plays basketball, so I'll go with the Ronnie Bell comparison. I don't know if did Ambry Thomas play basketball? I'm not sure. Wouldn't surprise me. Ambry's pretty athletic. But again, check out those interviews that I have on the YouTube page. Bushel Beatty, 2 with Noah Furbush, the one, out with everybody, then the one-on-one. And read that feature. I had a lot of fun writing the feature on Furbush. Put a lot of time into that. So read it. Greg Ryan says Engstrom was the OC at USD and had one of the best offenses in the nation. Yep, and he's an analyst at Michigan. So, I mean, yeah, Michigan's definitely got a lot of input, right? And this has been my whole thing. And we talked about, Ryan Schuling and I talked about this last week on the podcast. We've talked about this in here. I don't really care if it's an offensive coordinator, right? I mean, who cares what he's called? So many cooks in the kitchen could be a bad thing, right? And I use a soup analogy. You have the recipe for the soup, but everybody's kind of adding their little spice to it and everything. You get a different chef, and maybe he measures it, a little bit more generous. Whatever it is, I'm trying here. I'm making the food analogy. I'm trying to do it. At the end of the day is, yeah, if you're going to have that many people in there, just make sure it's the same people every year. And I think that's just been I think that's been, I don't even know if I want to say it, we'll call it an issue, but I feel like that's what's held Michigan's offense back. Despite there being numbers, I mean, Michigan's been a better rushing team every year under Jim Harbaugh. So, I mean, and to, compete in the Big Ten, I mean, you have to have a healthy running game to help set up the pass. So, I mean, that's a positive. It's not like the offense has just been totally inept and inadequate. It hasn't had that wow factor that a lot of people had thought it was going to have. And yeah, and I'll go back to, when Jed Fish was here. I liked where the offense was going with Jake Rudock and Wilton Speight. Jed Fish being the pass game coordinator. So again, back to the original point. Who cares if there's a offensive coordinator by label? Just make sure it's the same people in the kitchen trying to make the same soup next year and the year after and the year after. So Joel Brown says, "Yep, right on, Adam. It's like my dad used to say, anything with more than one head is a monster." Hey, I mean, sometimes a monster can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? But I mean, they all combine to, you could look at it, they can all combine to form Voltron, or they can all combine and have their own way of thinking and, half empty or half full, Joel. D-Strin 21 says, that Matthew Maddox, I think they can because they have the talent. They just need to execute, and I do not know what that's. I do not know what that's in response to. Jeffrey Cruz says, indefatigable is a word. I tried, man. I believe it is a word. It's not a word that I have in my it's not a word that I have in my vocabulary. I need to expand. I need to go read this thesaurus that's collecting dust. D-Strin 21 says, LOL, form Voltron, very funny. Who remembers Voltron? Anybody? Anybody have Voltron toys when they were a little kid? Any other questions, guys? As my dogs are barking in the back, we're going on 27 minutes. D-Strin 21 says they had Voltron. Born 1980. Well, yeah, I'm 81, so you had Voltron for sure. And they were metal, not plastic. Those things were metal. Micro Machines, Voltron, Battle Beasts. Matthew Maddox asks, Nas or Tupac? That is, that's like comparing Kobe and LeBron. It's Magic and LeBron, I think, is a more valid comparison. Kobe, Jordan, but I mean, Nas or Tupac. I mean, man, if I had to make the choice, I'd probably go Nas if I could only have one. There's so much Tupac that I like, but I mean, I don't know. I always liked East Coast hip hop more than West Coast hip hop. Like I was into like Warren G and Nate Dogg, like G Funk, Dr. Dre, that kind of stuff. That the G Funk sound. I liked Tupac, but other than beyond like Tupac, I wasn't really into like Outlaws. I liked Snoop Dogg, but I definitely preferred it was select with the West Coast stuff. I mean, I liked E40 a lot, a little bit different sound. He's Northern California, but I was real select with the West Coast stuff. I was really mostly into East Coast rap, and then like a lot of Southern rap, like Houston stuff, Memphis, New Orleans. You guys know all the groups and rappers that came out of there. So anyway, Peter's third string because he's hurt, right? Yes, that's what they're telling us. Joel will get back to football. JR the man says, who do you think is going to win the Big Ten? Early to tell, but I mean, I think Ohio State is certainly kind of the favorite, right? And I know a lot of people are writing Michigan State off. I mean, late game, they lost by a last-second field goal, 28-yard field goal. Lewerke threw for more than 300 yards. They made a ton of mistakes. And like I said, I mean, road game, I'm not willing to completely write off Michigan State, but I mean, right now, I think Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin's pretty good. These are all the teams that we talked about in the beginning. I think it's a little bit early to say, but I mean, if you're going to force me to pick one, I'll go Ohio State. Cameron Clark says State's O-line is very bad. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And Ryan Schuling made a point on Twitter. Which offensive line needs the most help? Is it Michigan State's or is it Michigan's? I think it's Michigan State's right now. Matthew Maddox says, yes, E40. I love E40. I love E40. Matthew Maddox, Nelly St. Louis. I liked a little bit of Nelly. A little bit. But, I mentioned this, Outkast. Like, I liked a lot of Atlanta stuff. I was really into Outkast. I was really into UGK. I like 3 6 Mafia because of the Memphis Flint connection. That's how I heard about them, because Dayton family from Flint. I was into, I mean, I already mentioned UGK. I like Young Dolph a lot right now. He's a Memphis rapper. And then as far as East Coast stuff, I mean, Redman, Method Man, Wu-Tang, Nas, Big L, Notorious B.I.G. I mean, we could go on and on and on. My playlists are extensive. Judah the Cushite Pharaoh says, who are the new defensive end to emerge? This is the end for Gary and Chase. Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, Kwity Paye. Aiden's right behind Rashawn. Aiden got some good playing time against Western. So, yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, Kwity Paye, Luigi Vallon. Certainly, those are kind of the ones. Yeah, Luigi's still hurt. Robert Prossman, yep, exactly. Aiden Hutchinson. Joel Brown says, State might get bowl eligible if they're careful. Maybe. Greg Ryan and Cap says Voltron. We're going on 32 minutes, guys. Any other questions? I'm going to check Twitter real quick. And again, read the feature on Noah Furbush. I'm trying to do two things at once here. Read that feature on Noah Furbush. He wants to be a jet fighter pilot. Like I said, I was really into jets and things like that when I was a kid. I used to want to be an astronaut. Yeah, in addition to sports writer, I thought I was going to like do all that stuff. When you're 5, you're going to do everything, right? So anyway, really interesting in the perspective, and just kind of like the little anecdotal stuff about like when he landed on a little grass strip, his parents were there to greet him with a mason jar full of milk, chocolate milk. I mean, to me, that kind of detail, that's what I like in a feature. And, it makes it fun to write. There's some football stuff in there. We talk about that interception. We talk about, Noah doesn't care if people think he's underrated or if he's overlooked. He really doesn't. And he's got, the size, 6'4" or 6'5", 237-ish. I mean, he's more athletic, I think, than people give him credit for. So read that feature. And follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81 and follow Great Lakes Divide on Twitter and Facebook. Same handle at GL Divide. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Costco Payne, what about Julius Welchoff? And that's a guy we haven't seen even get on the field, because I think about 80 players or so, give or take. I know 74 against Western, so I'm going to guess, somewhere maybe in the range of 77 to 80 have seen the field. Julius, I think probably, we probably won't see him. I don't know. I don't even know if he's dressed yet. I got to look at the participation. As far as I know, I don't believe he had dressed yet. Greg Ryan says, don't let that fool you. MSU will be ready for us. Matthew Maddox says, how old are you? I'm 36. I'll be 37. And here's a trivia fact. My 33rd birthday was Jim Harbaugh's introductory press conference at Michigan. So December 30th, 2014 was my 33rd birthday. I spent it working. I was with Bleacher Report at the time, and that was Jim Harbaugh's introductory press conference. And then they also played a bowl game on my birthday. So TCU, Ohio State prediction. Ohio State a lot, TCU very little. That's going to be ugly. Whitney Jackson says 9 passing touchdowns all last year, 4 already this year. Good sign. Yeah, Whitney, they broke that streak. Sorry, guys, getting blurry there. My birthday is December 30th. D-String. Cam Clark, any chance we land Daxton Hill? I think so, guys. And Cam, I've talked about Dax before. I'm not like the recruiting expert, but I do have pretty good ties with, a few recruits. And Dax was a guy that I communicated a lot with, and he expressed a lot of interest in Michigan. So, yeah, it's definitely as possible. D-String says his wife is December 3rd. Oh, okay. Joel Brown said, Adam C., it's fate for you to be a Michigan fan. I don't know about that, Joel, but I think it was fate for me to cover Jim Harbaugh's Michigan program. Let's go with that. The sports writing career gods aligned, and they said, on your birthday, happy birthday, Adam. Here's Jim Harbaugh. Enjoy, because it's going to be fun. And it has been fun. So, Cam Clark says, I honestly believe that if we get Hill, he plays right away. Alan Bargancross says, hopefully it's not second best interest like it seems to happen a lot with us against Alabama. I believe with Dax Hill, it's just, the in-state, and he's an Oklahoma kid, so obviously Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, two good football programs. Oklahoma, obviously, a little bit higher relevant when it comes to national relevance, but both two very good football programs over the years. So, those are two schools he was interested in. I know Alabama was after him, but Michigan. But I think Michigan does have a good chance with Dax Hill. Matthew Maddox says, God bless St. Harbaugh. Cam Clark says safety is the weak point of Michigan's defense. Robert Protzman says Daxon is too good to leave out the field. Brandon Gamble, so what should we be watching for in the SMU game? Good question, Brandon. Mentioned it a little bit earlier. Maybe some creative use with Ambry Thomas. I think you'll see Aiden Hutchinson get some playing time. I think maybe Jalen Mayfield and James Hudson, and not because of performance, but because they'll be allowed to. Not because John Runyon and Juwan Bushell-Beatty are going to struggle. It's because that they're going to get their time. Michigan should have a comfortable lead. I see a repeat of what happened last Saturday against Western Michigan. I want to see if Ronnie Bell gets targeted as a wide receiver. Those are some things that I'm looking for. I mean, there's a lot to look for in this game, but in terms of that, I think that, that's specifically what I'm looking for. And obviously, we'll be paying attention, offensive line, that sort of thing, but, see how much time Aiden Hutchinson gets, see how much time Jalen Mayfield and James Hudson get, and then see if Ronnie Bell gets in there off on the offense, gets a couple of chances to catch a ball, run some routes a little bit. And then also with Ambry Thomas. So we're going to see him on offense. It's not going to be, an every down player, obviously. And if Michigan does use him on offense, maybe, a few times per game, if that. But there are a lot of possibilities with Ambry. So Alan Bargancross says, hopefully an SMU game we don't incur any injuries. Well, I think that goes for every game, right? I mean, whether you're a fan or not of the team, I never wanted to see a team go in and anybody get injured. So I'm sure that they don't want to. Angelica Campos says, hey, Adam, I just made it. How much I missed? Angelica, we're getting to the end of it. I'm sorry, we're going on 38 minutes. I'll probably stick around for a little bit. Feel free to ask some questions. And Angelica, tomorrow between 11 and noon, I'll have 2020 Michigan target Lamarion James. Check him out on YouTube. Athlete, can do everything. Plays offense, defense, returns. Kid is just really good player. Ambry Thomas like, but also I mentioned that he plays basketball, so maybe he's Ronnie Bell. He's one of those type of athletes. So we'll have him tomorrow, and you guys can ask questions for a little bit. Angelica says Peter's officially number 3 on the depth chart. I'll check him out for sure. Yeah, definitely give Lamarion James a look. Peters is number 3 right now because Dylan had a really good practice last week, and Brandon's still going through whatever was initially called a tweak of the right knee. And then Harbaugh kind of backtracked a little bit on it, or I don't know if backtrack's the right word. He just gave a different explanation. He said it was lower right leg. So is Brandon Peters 100%? We have not been told that. I don't know. I think it's probably fair to assume that, he's still kind of lingering a little bit because he was number 2. But then again, Dylan was ahead of Brandon in camp at one point last year. So I'm not surprised if Dylan is the backup. And again, I'm kind of wondering what happened to Brandon Peters' career at Michigan. I'm starting to really start thinking about that. What is going on? What is Brandon Peters' future at Michigan? Anything official on Solomon Marshall yet? Nothing new, Angelica, other than just day to day. And my gut feeling is this is going to be something that's longer than day to day for Aubrey, I think. Cameron Clark said you're a big Ronnie Bell fan. Yeah, yeah. Definitely. I'm a fan of what Ronnie Bell can do. I've seen all of his highlights, basketball, football, watching him warm up. And then again, speaking with Jim Harbaugh on the Big Ten Coaches Conference call on Tuesday, I wrote about that. I put the link in there earlier. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put those, drop those links in there again. Right here, guys, is that Furbush feature. And then my dogs, there must be squirrels back there. They haven't barked on a conference call yet this year, but they like to bark during these live streams. I try bringing them in, but it's too nice to have them just sit in the house. Let them go and enjoy it. Because winter's coming, unfortunately. Here's what Harbaugh said. The second one's what Harbaugh said about Ronnie Bell. Rashawn Johnson says, staring at heaven. My buddy Eric had me join this New Era 5950 group. And these guys are all like a bunch of hat fanatics, and they're like getting, there's all different sorts. I've liked the actual ones on field, but you could get, the special commemorative ones and the ones, a little bit more like fashion design and things like that and limited edition. And, but yeah, I do like hats and shoes. Rashawn Johnson, do I think Wisconsin's overrated? No, I think Wisconsin's going to be good. Joel Braun says he likes Bell too, excited about his future. Angelica Campos wants to know, does Ronnie Bell have any relation to Isaiah Bell, the defensive back we used to have? I don't know. I do not know. Which, maybe a family connection now that you start thinking about it. Michigan was the only program to reach out to him at all. The only I'm talking the only D1 program that looked at Ronnie Bell was Michigan. So you might be onto something there, Angelica. That sounds logical, right? Not saying that, who knows? Maybe it's just coincidence, but possibly, yeah. Angelica says Isaiah was an Under Armour All-American. Yeah, man, you might be onto something there. All right, guys, 42:09. I have a couple things I have to do this evening. I'll be at the SMU game this weekend, of course. I apologize. I wasn't able to do my little post-game thing from the field. I'll do that. I'll do that Saturday. With that Western game, I'll be honest with you, I just wanted to get out of there. I was like, holy crap. This is and I know it's way too early in the season to even think about it, but then I learned my lesson with the traffic trying to get out of Ann Arbor. So instead of trying to get home a little bit early so I can write and everything, I don't think it's going to make a difference if I spend 15 minutes on the field Saturday recording a post-game reaction. So I'll do that. That'll be up on my YouTube. Harbaugh's post-game presser. I'll have as much video as I can from the players. They'll scatter a bunch of players out. Typically, I get everybody except for like maybe one, because I'll stick with one guy, hold, 10, 12 minutes instead of just getting a few minutes of each person. So, Angelica Campos says, going to another game, lucky. Yeah, all of them. All of them. All right, guys, any more questions, comments, concerns? I want to thank everybody for watching the live stream. I want to thank federalwilliams.com for being our title sponsor. Visit federalwilliams.com for all of your realty needs, specializing in the Lansing area with a specific focus on the eastern suburbs of Hazlet, Okemos, and East Lansing. And what else? Listen to our latest podcast. Ryan Schuling and I, we talked about True Wilson. Ryan dives deep into Michigan State. He covers the Spartans for us. And the new podcast tab on GreatLakesDivide.com, so check that out. The Twitters, at AdamBiggers81. Great Lakes Divide, same on Twitter and Facebook, at GL Divide. And as always, if you guys ever have any questions, tweet me. I'll do my best to answer them. D-Stren21 says, that is on my bucket list to go to U of M game, especially the game. The game. That hell of an atmosphere. Hell of an atmosphere. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching. I'm Adam. You guys. Talk to Angelica, Robert, Rashawn. Who else? Cam Clark. Rashawn, I think you're new. Cam, Angelica. They're regulars. Judah. He's been been in here a couple times. Alan, Matthew Maddox. Matthew, I think you might be somewhat new. Crittenden's in here. I'm trying to see Robert Protzman, D-String 21, Greg Ryan, Costco Payne. Yeah, Judah the Cushite Pharaoh, Joel Brown, and Jeffrey Cruz. If I missed you, it's not on purpose. Just scrolling through here. CS, Whitney Jackson. She's been in here. Moonwalker, I think's been in here a couple times. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll have another live stream again tomorrow between 11 a.m. and noon Eastern time. And we'll have 2020 Michigan target Lamarion James of Chesapeake, Virginia, Indian Hill High School. He's classified as an athlete, and he's very athletic. So go right now. Go watch his highlights right now. I've been watching his highlights since yesterday, and pretty impressed with what I've seen so far. So go watch his highlights, and then come in here tomorrow and ask him some questions, and we'll have a great time, and I'll get to the final one. Rashawn Johnson says, I am new, but I watch your show every day at work. I'm going to follow ASAP. Hey, I appreciate it, Rashawn. Thanks, man. J Mays 2 says, what does Harbaugh have to do to keep or maintain his offensive staff? J Mays, that's a good question. Let's carry it over to tomorrow, okay? Greg Ryan says, everyone needs to like this video. Yeah, usually they're all likes, and then there'll be like someone disliked the Noah Furbush interview. How can you do, and the Ambry Thomas? So there's one singular hater out there, but I appreciate everybody else. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll talk about Ohio, maybe, could be. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about tomorrow. Get those questions ready. Get your score predictions ready. And Sean, was it? No, it was, gosh, forgetting his name. Greg, who was that? Chris, no, it's Chris Hawk. Last week, Chris Hawk almost on the nose, and he predicted the first touchdown pass would be a bomb to Nico Collins. So thanks again, guys. Fun stream today. We'll do it again tomorrow between 11 and noon Eastern time with 2020 Michigan target Lamarion James. And he says the Wolverines are very high on his radar. So one last plug, read that Noah Furbush feature. Seriously, go do that. And then read the quick on Ronnie Bell. You know, it's not an in-depth feature, but it's kind of gives you an idea on his background, how athletic he is, and what Jim Harbaugh had to say about him. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good Thursday night. Thanks for watching.